partnership. Before we go to the entire sessions, Atul Netsanet, the British Council Director, will open the session. So over to you, Atul Netsanet.
Thank you, Almaz. Good morning, everyone. My name is Netsanet. I'm the country director for the British Council in Ethiopia. I've been a long time fan of education. I've done quite a number of things in education, and I believe in the value of it. And I'm very, very pleased personally to be with you this morning, but I'm also very pleased and proud of the team for putting together this session this morning, because there is quite a lot to gain from teachers coming around the table and sharing their experiences and expertise. And of course, I have to say that is really at the core of what we do at the British Council. We are set up to create opportunities globally for students, teachers, young people, artists, and that, because we believe in sharing, we believe in exchange, we believe in global networks. So in a small way, today's session is really about that, because as I said, there are quite a number of shared agenda when it comes to education. There are quite a number of challenges that we all face as educators. There are a number of shared ambitions, I want to believe also, that we all have for the young people that we work with. So when we come together and share those experiences and share also our challenges, I'm sure it's going to help us both as individual educators, but also collectively as nations and as global citizens. I think this notion of collaboration and exchange is even more important now, because we are all faced with this global pandemic, COVID, and it's affecting the way we do our jobs. So our schools are no longer the schools that we used to have, like in the past. The way our students behave in the classroom, I believe, has changed. Our jobs as educators have changed also significantly. So there is quite a lot that we are dealing with at the moment. There is quite a lot that we need to find answers to. So I want to believe that today's session will be an opportunity for you to share your experiences, to ask questions and learn from one another. And by doing so, as I said, you will become a better educator yourself. You will be able to find answers to some of the questions you have, but also you'll know that you belong to a global network of teachers who are grappling with the same challenges that you are, and you know where to go to when you need help going forward. So I think in closing, all I want to say is there is quite a lot to be learned. There is quite a lot to gain from exchanges of this type, professional exchanges of this type. And I'm very pleased and happy for the team for making it possible this morning. Taking it forward, we also believe that whenever possible, it is even better when we set up international opportunities for partnership like these. But even among Ethiopian teachers, I think I can't stress enough how much learning there is going to be if teachers come together and do that professional exchange. So I know the team are working to put together a community of practice for Ethiopian teachers. We hope to be able to launch it very soon. And the whole purpose of that, again, is, like-minded teachers coming around the table, sharing their lessons, sharing their experiences, and also raising questions so they can find the answers from other fellow teachers. So I think all I want to say is really, you've done the right thing. Team, you've done the right thing in terms of setting this platform for exchange. I want to, I wish you all the best in these deliberations this morning. But I really want to also say that, you need to continue to work together. You need to continue to share notes and experiences. That's how we make ourselves better teachers. And also that's how we contribute our bit to making the world a better place for all of us to live in. So all the best for your deliberations going forward, and I'll be sitting in quietly and listening to the exchange. Thanks so much. Back to you, Almaz. You're on mute, Almaz. We can hear you now. You're back.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much. I know you would share lots of things. That's why I just introduced you very briefly. As already said, there is a wealth of practice and there is a long-standing community of practice in Ethiopian teachers that we have started. And we are sure that we will learn from partners from the UK as well. So today's session is going to be experience sharing on school partnership programs, which has been running for many years now since connecting among UK teachers and Ethiopian teachers and school leaders as well. So the objective is going to be to share experiences, and we plan to look deeper, to have deeper professional development input from our discussion. We will compare practices and learn from practices and experiences. We will learn how teachers are being served through different kinds of trainings we provide them, the core skills, for example, CTPS and the like. And we will see how pedagogically we are supporting teachers, because as I said, from the collaboration, that is also part of what we are doing. And then we will also see what people-to-pupil projects we are running in our schools, so that viewers, there will be a lot to benefit from this panel, and I'm sure you will also contribute to this panel actively. Now, I would like the panelists to introduce themselves briefly. So I will first call upon Dr. Meryl, team leader of Science Department and scientist from Corbridge Middle School, UK. So over to you, Dr. Meryl.
I'm team leader of science at Corbridge Middle School in the north of England. It's in an area called Northumberland. And it was my idea about nearly 2 years ago to do a partnership with Ethiopia. And then last year in November, this time last year, we had 6 visitors from Addis came to our schools in Northumberland. And it was an absolute amazing experience.
Thank you very much, Dr. Meryl. Our next person will be Ato Asamino, a school leader in Ethiopia. Please introduce yourself.
All right, thank you, Dr. Almaz. My name is Asamino. I'm a school principal in Ethio-Wales Global Academy, and also I'm a training facilitator in British Council. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I go to Fatuma Ahmed, General Manager of Bikolo Noor Academy.
Thank you, Dr. Almaz. I'm Fatuma Ahmed from Ethiopia. I'm a co-founder of a school in Addis Ababa, and I'm one of the partner schools from the Ethiopian side.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Grace, over to you.
Thank you. I'm working at St. Joseph's Middle School in Hexham, which is just down the road from Corbridge Middle. I am a Key Stage 2 mathematics leader, and I'm also a science teacher, and that's how I joined the programme, working with Meryl and the Ethiopian team.
Thank you very much. So we are going to cover the main objective of today's sessions are: one, it will be a reflection of what our activities are in our schools. And then the UK schools will share their reopening protocols, because they had already, sub-schools had opened. And then we will have discussion on school reopening protocols and preparations. So we are going to look at, there will be some questions, and then I will ask each of you so that our reflections will be organized. All right. So the first I'm going to ask Dr. Meryl. So could you please tell us the overall objective and impact of the project, the school partnership project?
Okay, so as a science teacher, I really wanted my pupils and pupils in Addis to think about some of the global problems we're experiencing, such as access to clean water and access to clean energy. So we looked at the Sustainable Development Goals, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and I chose SDG 6 for clean water and SDG 7 for clean energy. And I chose two different projects for students in both countries to study. So the clean water, the students were doing a STEM, science-based investigation, looking at cleaning water, dirty water, through a filter, just using an old plastic bottle. And then clean energy, we were making wind turbines using paper to show that we could use that kinetic energy from the wind to drive a turbine, which would create electrical energy. So we had hands-on STEM activities to tackle global issues. It worked really well. Some of the schools did some incredible projects. Asai school in Addis, Tedeschi school was amazing. They built full-scale models of wind turbines to show how well they could work. So they were simple investigations. They were not expensive. They used recycled materials or inexpensive materials. But I think all pupils who took part, enjoyed it because it was an investigation. They felt that they were doing something useful, and they can see that some solutions to global issues are very, very simple in that they can be scaled up. And clean water, everybody needs clean water. We know it's an issue in Ethiopia in many areas, and I think in terms of climate change, we need that clean energy. So all the schools took part, and then we shared our ideas with each other. And when we went over to Addis, we took photos of our pupils doing the investigations, and we saw the projects from your pupils doing their own projects. And so it was lovely, really, really lovely. It's also given a lot of room for the project to continue.
Thank you very much. Well, a very good experience actually bringing practical aspects of the learning into school and supporting our students so that they can have practical ways of working, and of course also managing the problem of water here, purifying dirty water. And, thank you for that. Would you please share the particular experience and of impact of the water purification to students in your school, and of course on the overall teaching and learning experience of the learners?
Thank you, Dr. Almaz. I'm really sorry my voice is bad today. To be honest, before I directly proceed to explaining the particular examples that impacts the teaching and learning process in science, I would like to say a few words about this partnership and the representative of the partner schools. I'm really honored and proud being a member of this partnership, because the representative of the school from both sides, from Ethiopia and from UK, are amazing. And they have huge experience as a teacher and as a school leaders. For the last one year, I have learned a lot of lessons so that I can take my schools to somewhere in terms of teaching and learning process. So with regard to the question you raised, I think Dr. Meryl already explained the main focus area of the partnership. That is the STEAM projects and the two United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, that is 6 and 7, access to clean water and sanitation, and clean and affordable energy. So that was the main focus area of our partnership. As you all know, 3/4 of the world is covered by water, but only 0.25% of the water are drinkable. So from this, we can conclude that there is no question for a shortage or there is a limitation or access, the scarcity of water resource in the world, in our planet. So my school, what we did is we have to selected 50 students from grade 5 to 8 and sent to the nearby river to do two things. One, to study the chemistry inside the river, and also to bring some ditch dirty water to the lab for study. So they went and brought water. As you know, water is colorless, but the water they brought from the river is completely black. Not only black, but it also bad smells. So they brought it in the lab. In the lab, they brought different items like filter paper, cotton, sands, gravels, charcoals, grass and fibers, and also plastic bottles. So using these materials, they use a layer of purification for water. So they did it in the lab, and they saw that the black water becomes colorless. But that is not water drinkable. But they took a sample of the purified water and look at in the microscope, and they found out that there are bacteria and virus in it. So to make free from microorganisms, they boil it in the lab. After boiling, then took a sample and see through the microscope. So in the microscope, there is no microorganisms in it, but it's not drinkable still now. So what they did next is they use a pH meter to check whether the water is neutral, acidic, or basic. So by using pH meter, they measure the acidity, basicity, or the neutral of the water solution, and they found out 3.5, which is very strong acid. So it's not drinkable. It's very strong acid. So to make it drinkable, they use different aquariums so that the pH value, until the pH value reaches to 6.5 to 7.5. And they did it. Now, from this, my students and learned a lot of things from this. The way they learn science is different. Now my students are not allowed to sit and learn only for science subjects right now. They demand practical aspect starting from that day. And the way teachers teach science is also different. So the impact of this project is countless. To be honest, it's very countless. So finally, they decided that this is the beauty of science, which changes undrinkable bad smell water to drinkable. So they appreciate these things, and still now the students are inspiring to exchange letters and other projects as well. Thank you, Dr. Almaz.
Thank you very much, Ase. Yes, indeed, 50 students already developed a culture of wanting to learn practically. That is really amazing and a very good experience. Well, I think what we actually aim in the partnership is such experience. How are other schools in other places learning, and how could or how should our learners learn? And this is a practical example, just drawing from what Doctor said and what you said already. We can see there is the transferring or the sharing of experiences, which really also alter the experience of the learners. Thank you very much, both. Now I will go to Ms. Fatuma. So what is the experience, or what is the practice of the partnership in your school? How has it benefited your learners? How has it benefited you as a leader? And how has it benefited the teachers? Miss Fatuma?
Yes, Dr. Almaz, thank you. As we said before, there is lots of experiences that we have gained from this partnership. To begin with, what we have noticed is like school is school everywhere. We have a lot in common, and kids are kids, especially of the same age, and the teachers also. So we have a lot to share, and moreover, teaching is not something that you do on your own, and it's not something that you are contented with. So you have to share, especially when it's a global sharing. It's beautiful. As for me, as a school leader, I have seen that there is a lot to share, especially from the British schools, their way of teaching, their method of teaching, and the practices they use, how they make teaching practical, and how they make it student-centered. It was so amazing. So we have brought some of the experience to our schools. And as I mentioned earlier, we have done the projects of the science, which made it lively to the students, and they're so excited, especially when they have the guests here. They were so excited and to share their views with their, other schools partners. And even the teachers, we have brought some experiences and practices. And after we gave them the training, most of our teachers, they took the training, especially on the SDG, the climate change. So they were even in a position of changing their lesson plans, integrating with the global warming and the climate change. And overall, it was so beautiful, and we're so excited. And I'm sure that will continue. It's just a year from now. It is last year. And we are looking forward to start after the school reopens. And we are very thankful for the British Council, and especially the coordinator and the leader of the team. So there is still a lot to share. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fatuma. Well, yes, learning is not an individual venture. We have to do it in partnership, and we have benefited a lot from the partnership. Teachers are even changing their lesson plans to be that. Very exciting indeed. Miss Grace, do you have anything to add to this, please? I mean, what is partnership in your view, and how is it? How are you functioning around it, and what do you think you have added to the colleagues in Ethiopia?
I would say that from what I gained from the experience, I'm quite early on in my career. The children that I work with are younger, and they gain so much real life experience from my journey to Ethiopia back. They were really able to put their knowledge into action. And then when I went over and I could take all the pictures and show them everything, and the children developed a collaboration, and they were so excited, and they could see that they weren't working alone in that. And I think the partnership for me extended beyond all of the, can you hear me? Yep. Sorry, all of the teachers were a partnership, but the pupils developed a partnership between themselves as well. And my students really, really enjoyed that. I don't know, I couldn't say a hand down exactly what they took from me. I would think that there would be some things that they may have. But I just want to thank everybody for the experience, because it's something that I still look back on and I still talk about with my pupils. And even though they're now in the next year on, it's something that is still greatly impacting my teaching, talking about the sustainable goals. And it's something that my pupils are aware of now, which they weren't before this.
Thank you, Miss Grace.
Dr. Almaz, I have some photos. If I can share my screen, I can show everybody some photos of our experience. So let's see if this works.
Yes.
Screen sharing. Okay, hold on. Share screen. Okay. Can you see those? Share. Hold on. Share audio. Share. Okay, I'm trying. Oh, that one. Okay, so I think can you see those? Have I lost you? Okay, hold on. I'm trying. Right. I'm hoping that you can see my screen. Is that right? Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me? Can you see my pictures?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, so here's the team in my classroom. So this is a year ago. We had the 6 Ethiopian teachers come to England. Here's Asi, here's Fatuma, and here's Grace, and here's me in my lab with my poster about science and sustainable development goals. And we started off with meeting each other and having CPD about global citizenship and about the project and about sustainable development. And we went then and visited the different schools. And here's my students doing the wind turbine project, using just paper to develop a wind turbine so they could show the kinetic energy transfers into electrical energy. Here's one of the other English schools doing the water filtration project. So as Asi was saying, these older students then started looking in more detail about the chemistry of the water, whereas the younger students can just simply see that the dirty water becomes clearer, so that they can see how easy it is to clean water and talk about how important it is. So when the Ethiopian teachers came over, I thought rather than showing them too many interesting tourist spots, I would take them to a wind farm. So we had a day out at a wind farm on the north east coast. It was very cold because it was November. So we all had to get our hard hats on. We sent postcards to each other's schools. So my students and students from the English schools took postcards with us to give to the Ethiopian schools, all based around sustainable development, showing them that we know that there are problems with food and water and energy and climate change. So we shared our ideas. It allows a common language. Here's one of the Christine Hilton, one of our teachers, showing pictures of what we were doing in the UK to students at Tedesi's school. And it was lovely for them to see that and talk about how each other's projects were working. We're hoping to get some Zoom interaction with schools soon. Again, I was so amazed by the Ethiopian students and their enthusiasm and their knowledge and their passion to learn and for education. I think the one thing that I brought away from it is our English students don't have the same passion to learn, and how we engender that, engage it, to show them that the Ethiopian students all see that education can provide a better life. So even the young students looked at water filtration. This school, Tefera's school, was up in the hills just above Addis, and their school was empowered and engaged so much about the problems of their local river that had quite a bit of pollution, that the community came together and actually started clearing up the river, which is what I'm using as a basis for our next project going into the future. And that passion, every classroom I walked in, I was amazed by how enthusiastic your children are to learn. You should really take pride. If you have classrooms like that in your school, it's a teacher's dream. The kids want to learn, they want to take part, they want to show off what they know, which is really incredible. So I think that's enough of that. Let me stop sharing and see if I can get back to you. There we go. Did that work?
Yes, it did indeed.
Did that work?
Thank you very much. It worked. It worked.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Great,
Almaz.
yeah. welcome. You're welcome. Well, yes, as you said, it is the work of the British Council, the work of the learning partnership, the work of collaboration that there is enthusiasm, and whatever teachers we meet and school leaders we meet, I think the radiance of the goodwill and what we have to instill in our students goes. And the citizenship, starting with citizenship, as you said, was a great job, because that is how we start. We tell them that loving themselves and learning will spill to others also. That's why the organization of the community, as you said, was very smooth, and the students are very enthusiastic. Thank you for sharing, really. It was amazing. Now, let's go to the next questions. So I'm going to come back to you, Dr. Meryl. What does teachers' preparation look like for the school reopening? How did it go? Because in some regions, our schools have opened, but in others, only limited students are learning, like grade 8 and grade 12. The others, we haven't still opened. So what would you share in terms of that?
So shortly after we came back from Addis in February, our schools all shut towards the end of March. All our state schools shut at the end of March. And it was a national lockdown, so there was very little, a few people going to work or going to school, so no students going to school. And that lasted all the way through the summer. But in September, at the beginning of September, our state schools all reopened. So teachers were expected to go into schools. We opened the windows to make sure that there is good ventilation. The students are wearing masks just on the corridors, but not in classrooms. Okay, and we have risk assessments, very, very long, detailed risk assessments about how we should be using our classrooms to teach safely. So they suggest that we should be 2 meters away from the students, for the aerosols, the particles, not to be able to be transmitted between us. Has it been 100% successful? No. I think the United Kingdom's got much higher rates of COVID than even than Ethiopia. And I think a few reasons for that is it's much colder here. So the ventilation isn't as good. People close their windows, whereas your schools are open. And more, there's more ventilation through the schools. But we have managed to have, most schools have managed to stay open since September. We're now near the end of November, so the pupils are back in schools. And I have to say, I'm really pleased that they are. They are learning much better. Oh, okay, my audio is breaking up, sorry. The students are happy to be back in school, and so hopefully their learning is good. But there are issues. We do have COVID outbreaks in schools. I haven't had one. Grace, have you had an outbreak in your school yet? No. Okay, so but many schools, the other schools in the partnership, Hexham High School, Hexham Middle School, they have had several cases, and so whole year groups of pupils are sent home to do online learning. We are fortunate. Most students have access to the internet at home, and most students can either have a laptop or borrow a laptop from school. So the online learning should work okay, but it's not been very easy. It's very tiring as a teacher when you know you have 30 pupils, all the schools, all of the classes are full. And I was talking to the Ethiopian teachers, and you have slightly different plans, and I think some of your plans are better. I think you'll stay safer, and you should have less outbreaks of coronavirus, hopefully. Thank you, Dr. Almaz.
Thank you very much. Your audio was breaking a bit, but it's okay. Yes, I think let's listen to what Ato Samino would say as a leader. What does your preparation look like? What does it look like?
All right, thank you. With regards to the preparation for reopening the school, it is really very shocking because we didn't start all the classes. Anyway, we can put my explanation in two perspectives. One is from private schools point of view, and the other one is from government point of view. All in all, the governments of Ethiopia, especially Ministry of Education, prepared the protocol in consultation with the Ministry of Health, then distributed to Regional Education Bureau, and the Regional Education Bureau contextualize it and send it to schools. And then my schools also receive a protocol from Education Office. And then we try to contextualize it so that that would be very good and fit to my school environment. And then we just communicate this protocol to different stakeholders. Like, for example, we call all parents and give training about this protocol and the way how they can control and teach their students how they can keep this protocol. Like, for example, wearing masks and other things. We give one-day trainings. We also give training to schools teachers so that they can watch out students whether they are following the protocol or not. And also we train the students as well, especially for grade 8 students because they are coming very soon. And we give training for them to keep themselves from this pandemic. And there are protocols. That protocol should be familiar for them. So we give training for the 3 stakeholders. In all this process, the Parent-Teacher Association is also working with us and also send a message to all parents. So as far as private schools is concerned, they are following the same procedures. But with government schools, still, I don't think so. They are ready to accept students because they are under constructions. Even some materials are not fulfilled. Because of this, I think we are lagging behind. And still, this is really very shocking as a private school because we didn't start, even if we meet all the protocols and other things. So I'm waiting to the government to accept the students, but we are prepared as far as our schools is concerned. Thank you, Dr. Almaz.
Thank you very much, Ase. I think I would like to add something here on what was the impact of COVID-19 on schools and school leaders during the lockdown. Well, in Addis, we can say it is still schools in government schools haven't started to fully function because as Ato Samino just mentioned, that schools are under construction and so on. Well, the impact, it was actually tried to be assessed in different ways. School leaders had worries on, like, for example, would there be facilities? Would teachers be ready to carry loads because of the pandemic? There are going to be shifts. Students are expected to come in different shifts. Therefore, teachers will be loaded. And that was school leaders' worries. The other was a worry of the input. Will there be enough masks for students? Will there be enough sanitizers? Will there be enough tap water for the students to wash? Will the classrooms will be accommodative, like will there be space, ventilation, and so on and so forth. So this has been a great worry for school leaders. Although we haven't had a chance to talk with leaders in Addis, we had a chance through our school supervision program to reach teachers from other regions like the Amhara region, the Oromia region, and so on and so forth. And still the school leaders, they have their worries at the impact of the COVID, but they are doing their level best to work towards safe reopening. For example, I would like to share, because this is a sharing platform, right? I would like to share what one school leader told me and what he did. They didn't have masks for all students. It was only provided for grade 8 students. So what he did was he reached out parents to give him different kinds of garment, and he asked the tailors in the village to make masks for his students. Imagine, this is an amazing experience. What about the water? He went around and collected small jerry cans, and then he filled them with water. He also asked for soap, for people who can donate soap. And then in his compound, he put up the jerry cans 2 meters away on a tree. So when the students come, they can wash their hands. It doesn't necessarily have to be a tap water, but he has tried his best. So there are lots of commitments from the school leaders, but the impact, it was not very simple. They had worries, psychosocial worries, we can say. They were saying, will there be really understanding of carrying the load, carrying burdens on the teachers, on the learners? But they are trying their level best. So the impact, I think it was a learning experience in a way. There was also a research done, and our finding had showed us that will the teachers be ready to carry loads? Yes, they are. They said the government has been paying us without teaching, so now we are there to pay it back. Amazing. This is again what our teachers in the supervision told us. I'm sharing what, in my observation, what I found out. So, given the impact, I think teachers and school leaders were ready to contribute their share. Therefore, there will be a smooth reopening. But still, as Ato Samino already mentioned, there are still challenges. There are not enough classrooms, especially in Addis, so schools haven't opened fully. But if I think the buildings and so on will be ready, I think the psychological readiness of the teachers and the learners is really amazing, and I'm sure there will be a safe reopening. Okay? So having said this, I would like to ask Ms. Fatuma, in your observation, what were some of the psychosocial impacts of COVID-19 on the students and teachers in your school, and how did you try to tackle those?
Thank you again, Dr. Almaz. This COVID is a new experience for all of us. I think it's new for the world. It's unexpected. So I think even the impact is yet to be manifested because school has not started yet. As you said, it has a lot of negative impacts, especially let me start with the negative impacts, the psychological impacts. With
Ms. Fatuma, we have lost you. Can you hear me?
Am I back? Am I back now?
Can you hear us? Yes, you are back.
Yeah, sorry. There was light interruption. So as I said, it's a new experience. We're not ready for it.
Miss Fatuma, are you there? Hello? Okay, I will come back to Miss Fatuma. Miss Grace, would you like to tell us what students and their parents and guardians needed to do for better psychological engagement or readiness when school reopened?
I think in our circumstances, it was making sure that children knew what was coming and getting them ready as ready as possible before that they came back to school, because it was the unknown, and I think the fear of the unknown was more than that. So throughout the lockdown that we had here, we kept in contact with parents weekly or bi-weekly to make sure that we knew how everything was going at home. If there was anything that wasn't going well, we were aware of that. And I think that helped with children's return to school, and parents knew what was coming next. We tried to keep them informed. With regards to them actually returning to school, we really tried to adjust for that anxiety of coming back, because it was such a kind of abrupt shutdown, and then they spent a long time off school. Although they were doing online learning, it wasn't the same. They weren't with their peer group anymore, and they had spent such a long time not having that support face to face. So we sent out a lot of videos of what the school would look like, and we did a version for the pupils and a version for the parents, so that they could really see what it would be like in school and how things would change. And it was to try to eliminate that fear of what it was going to be like coming back to school, everything that was going to be different, but trying not to make it such a serious deal, because I think a lot of this fear of the pandemic, this fear of COVID-19 that is in our learners, it's now becoming habitual because it's something that they were prepared for coming back. We also, on the first day, we allowed our new students to come into our school alone, and we deferred all of the other years by a day, because they knew a little bit of what they were coming back to, where our newcomers, our new year 5 students, they had never been to our school, and that transition hadn't happened either. So we tried to counteract that by letting them come into school a day later to make sure that they felt comfortable and settled in. I think it was really important to make sure that the children were comfortable and the parents were informed, in keeping that relationship between the school and between home going all throughout, ready for when they started and come back. Thank you.
Miss Fatuma, I think she dropped. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think Miss Fatuma's connection must have dropped. She's already out. I think, as I said, we haven't fully opened. So there are still some challenges. I would like, Ase, if you have anything to ask either Dr. Meryl or Miss Grace, so that we can have the experience and other school leaders could also benefit from what your discussion will be. So, I mean, the readiness on school reopening. I know private schools are ready, but with your engagement with lots of teachers and parents, what major challenges do you have? And would you please share that with us? You are muted, Ase. You are muted.
All right.
Please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now? Okay, with regards to the challenge, I think one of the biggest challenges that we faced is perception of the people, because COVID-19 is completely new. No one is sure about the disease. But people are, especially in the lower grades, parents are not willing to send their children to school. This could be one of the challenges for the school, even if we are going to fulfill all the protocols and reopen the school. So that is most of the challenge that we face. On the other hand, we have seen both government and the private schools are the same. That's why we are not even, we are ready to accept our students and reopen the school. But the government did not allow us to open the school because his school is lagging behind, and that brings psychological impact to the students. So of course, I agree for that. But the potential of the private school is becoming weak and weak, and most of them will run out from the sector. So we should have to take some serious measure as school leaders and other things. So even if all these challenges coming to us, we are struggling and fulfill more to reopen and accept the students as far as the private schools are concerned. But the question, as you said, I can ask a question for a partner school in UK to share us their best experiences, especially for reopening, the protocol they had, what kind of protocol they had to keep health for their students. And also, even if COVID-19 brings an impact on education, how can we really sustain our partnership in the future as well? So I have these two questions and you can answer it for. Thank you, Dr. Almaz.
If I answer the question with regards to the COVID, and then Dr. Meryl,
Yes.
you can answer with regards to the future partnership. How does that sound? Okay. Well, I had a discussion with my head teacher and deputy head yesterday with regards to how what we put in place in the list is absolutely phenomenal of everything that we've put in place and we're doing without actually realizing. We've had so many versions of risk assessments because things are changing all the time. And I think the most important thing as a leader is to be flexible, to identify when things aren't working and change it. And the staff will be the same. We're very resilient. We put things into place and we just come together as a team. And I'm sure it will be exactly the same in every school across the world. Some of the things that we put in place are extended hand washing. We've had to have sinks fitted outside. We've had children bringing in packed lunches, and if they have packed lunch, they eat that in their classroom, whereas our school dinner children will go separately. We are in bubbles, so we are split across the school, Key Stage 3. The older children are in year group bubbles, but our younger children are in class bubbles, and they do not cross. I have gone from teaching mainly English and maths and science to now basically teaching everything, and I teach my class. I don't teach across the school anymore. So I'm within my own bubble. So this year I only teach one class, where last year I was teaching 5 or 6. So it's been quite difficult in terms of teaching a subject that I have limited knowledge in, but it's been a challenge and I've risen to the occasion, I would say. Staff in our school work more independently, or you work within a smaller team than you would, and we communicate without having to see each other as much. So we have walkie-talkie system in our school. So if we need anything or we need to communicate, instead of walking over to the office or someone coming to see us, we will just walkie-talkie our message over to try and reduce that risk. We also end up washing our desks down between breaks and lunch times and at certain points throughout the day. Children have asked to wash their hands at various points throughout the day and then sanitize different times. There's loads and loads of things that have been put into place. We now have a staggered timetable, which means that the two key stage groups of children are doing things at different times of the day. So there's no cross-contamination, and they even have certain areas of the playground cut off from the rest, so they are only playing with the children that are in their class. We've tried to think of everything that we can in terms of counteracting where they would meet each other and spread the virus, essentially. We've tried to think of absolutely everything that we could. We've had to hire more cleaners, we've had to hire more support staff. across the school to make sure that all children have access to what they need. But at the beginning of September, when all of the students and all of the teachers came back, we were all given a checklist of everything that we needed and that would be expected of us to do. And I think that was really, really helpful as a member of staff to know of what points of the day we should have been doing certain things. And it was much easier to have that written down and have that checklist in front of you, so we knew exactly what had to happen. And then the students had their own version. So although they'd been told prior to returning with the video, they were given a paper copy, so they knew they could see exactly what was going to happen for them. So it wasn't so much of a shock, and it became a routine event. Essentially, it's become very much of a routine. And the children are so resilient, and the staff just have become such a strong team together that we just have to be flexible in it. And I think the students are very much aware of that, and they are very understanding, and they get on with it. And I couldn't be more proud of the students that I've got and the members of staff that I work with, because we've just pulled together and we've done it.
Thank you, Miss Grace. Thank you very much. Doctor, over to you.
Okay, so in terms of the partnership that we started, the Ethiopian team came to us this time last year, so November last year, and then we came over to Addis in February, and those reciprocal visits were magical. And any team trying to set up a partnership in the future, it might have to be virtual. We're really lucky to have met each other face to face, and I'm hoping those trips can continue in the future. But for our partnership, we don't want it to end. I adore the whole team, the English teachers and the teachers in Ethiopia. We've had some amazing times together and with our students. So it went very quiet over lockdown, too much to do, setting lessons online, trying to work out how schools could reopen. But now that schools are open again, and the schools in Ethiopia are hopefully opening again, we want our students to carry on, because those links, those global citizenship links, are so important to our education. So what I was thinking is I wanted to carry on looking at Tefera's work cleaning up the river. I have set 4 challenges for the schools when they reopen. The first is to research the geography and the ecology and the social aspects of the river nearest their school. And so it is a research project, so it should be quite easy to undertake. The next project, I've got some funding still from the very, very generous British Council. And so I'm hoping to get water testing kits out to the schools in Addis and the smaller schools in England, so that they can test the actual chemistry of the water. Is it safe to drink? What do we need to do to clean it up? How is it, if it's polluted, is it plastic pollution? Is it agricultural pollution like nitrates? So even the young kids can understand this is where, what we expect to see from a clean river, and this is what we actually have. Is there a problem? So then that would lead into the third challenge, which would be, what can we do to help our rivers? Are they the life force of what flows through our local environment? They give life to the animals around us, and they're essential for humans. So can we protect our rivers? What do we need to do to protect it? That might mean that actually schools taking action and helping to clean up a river or take care of a river, or increasing the biodiversity around their river, so that there's a flow through of the different projects to the end project. And we're hoping to do a big art project to share our ideas, with on our rivers, and as that they are rivers of the world. So the first 3 are all managed by me, and the fourth one has some outside influence that I'm still trying to work out the details. But to work with other schools internationally is a real honour, and I think we're very easy to stay, especially now with COVID, in our own little bubbles. But if we don't look out to the bigger picture, then the world's a very, very sad place. So it's essential that we see outside as teachers, but also our students see outside. So I've got a question. Thank you, Kadain. Do you all agree that this is the right time to reopen schools based on each country's context and due to the pandemic? I'll just answer my little bit of that. I was very skeptical about my school reopening. I think there is COVID still. There's high cases of COVID in the United Kingdom. And I was very worried that I would catch it, my students would catch it. And actually, yes, since schools have reopened, the cases are rising. Students do pass COVID to each other and then potentially to the teachers. I think as long as so there are risks, but there are risks in life, whatever. So my gut feeling is seeing how well the children have responded to returning to school. I would say that as soon as you can open, you try and open and you manage the risks accordingly. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy at all. It's kind of miserable. It's very tiring. Mask on, mask off. Worried about all of the aspects of keeping our schools safe. But in terms of learning, lost learning is a real issue. Children have gone back not just the 3 or 4 months that they missed in the summer, but they've gone back 6 months or a year in their learning. So I think if we can get schools open, it is a good thing. But we need to do everything we can to make those safe. Okay, I think I'll finish there. Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you so much. Actually, you answered 2 or 3 of the questions that came on the comment on Facebook, and thank you very much. One of the questions was, what was the contribution of students on water purification project? You had already told us earlier, and now also you have given us the 4 challenges. I think lots of students will be engaged and their contribution will be immense in that. So thank you for that, for that, sharing that, because I'm sure it will give the students lots of opportunity. The other question is, what is the impact of limiting numbers of students in the classroom? I think maybe in your case, the number of students might have been small and still remains small.
No, actually, in English state schools, government-funded schools, they expected all children to come back into school at the same time. There's no rota system for getting some students in one day, other students in the next day. We actually just said we'll open all schools. So for my lab, what we had to do is, it is better in terms of risk, lowers the risk to have all the students facing the front, so that they're not normally in a laboratory they'd be facing each other on benches. So we removed all of the benches and put in tables so that all children are facing the front, which makes doing practical work in science very difficult because they're not meant to face each other, face the front. So we've had to adapt all of our teaching. We take them outside a lot more so that they can do outside learning, because outside space is much better for lowering the risk. So anything you can do outside, the kids love it because it's different. It's fresh air, and so that actually adds some benefits. Then you can talk more about nature and about our place in the environment, which is good for our mental health too. So there, some aspects of having COVID in the country have not all been bad. I think there are some benefits and some positive things that we can use to make ourselves feel better about the situation.
Thank you very much. So, I mean, if there is a limited number of learners, what do you think will be missed out? This is a question from one of our viewers. What do you think will really be missed out if the number of students is very limited and very few? In your case, you said, well, all of them are back, but in our case, if you ask me, they are almost by half, lower by half. In one classroom, there have to be 25 learners because there needs to be space. So what do you think will be missed out? I mean, this is just one of our viewers wanted to know what is missing, what will be missing in that?
In our school, what we've done, if a child has to self-isolate at the moment, if they aren't working in school, all of their lessons will be available online. or there will be, if they have very limited access to Wi-Fi or technology, then it would be sent out in paper copy. So at the minute, we aren't working on the premise that anything would be missed out. I think it's just trying to counteract or make sure. In the lockdown, when we were only allowed to have so many students in, we had to split classes, but there were only certain year groups, so we could use teachers from other year groups to counteract that. In terms of the remote learning and planning for what might be going forward in the future and what we might have to put in place if there is a second lockdown, or if there is a huge amount of the children have to go off and self-isolate, it would be online learning that we put in place. And it may be a case of going through our curriculum and identifying what we would class as the essential learning and trying to make sure that those skills were covered across all of the subjects that we do. So it would be identifying what you would class as important. That's how I would understand that question to be taken. I mean, I might be wrong, Dr. Meryl.
Very much. So I think for the loss, the worry is, will many students lose things, So I think in your case, if there are going to be virtual classes and so on and so forth, I think there will be a compensation for the loss as well. I think because of time, I'm going to go to the questions and then assign questions to each of you so that you can reflect on the questions, all right? So I think I will go to Dr. Meryl here. What teachers need to do additionally to make continuity of learning during COVID-19? I think...
Can you continue to...
Yes,
sorry, Dr. Almaz, can you just repeat that question?
I will. So, thus far in Ethiopia, for example, we haven't started all schools. Schools are not open yet. So what do you think the teachers need to have additionally, to work additionally on in order to make learning happen continuously? What do you think will be the task of the teachers?
So it might be different in the UK and in Ethiopia. So for us, the government has said that schools have a legal mandate. They have to provide education online. So because our internet connectivity is generally quite good, the government says online learning. And so we know that we have to do that. But there's a lot of children who don't work well online. They don't have the internet access. They don't have the computer access. So it is very difficult. So we have sent packs of information home to schools, but that's printing costs, photocopying costs, time. Time is all of us are very, very busy at the moment, setting work with students at home, students in school. So I think make it simple. Whenever you have a challenge like this, you have to break it down into what's most important. So their language skills, their math skills, just make sure that they have the basics and work with parents. Say this is what we expect to be done. So however you get that information to the students if they're at home still. Now, what will be better is when your students come in on rota and you have half the students in 1 week, half the students in the next week. You can set work when they're in school for the week that they're working at home, and then they can bring that work back in when they come back into school, and that will make it easier. It's just a very different way of teaching. So as Grace was saying, we need to be very flexible and adapt to what works and what doesn't work. Thank you, Dr. Almaz. Mike.
I think that is also what is tried here, like bringing some students for one day and then the next day there will be another group. So I think my suggestion here will also be to our Ethiopian colleagues that to select what are the important things that we have to teach. I mean, we cannot teach everything, but we have to be selective. And one of the questions here says, what extra things should teachers do? Well, teachers have to select what is very important, like we have to prioritize, and then we have to sort of organize them in a kind of cluster. Lessons could be cluster, and that means we have to also revisit our lesson plans, be it a daily plan, a weekly plan, a monthly plan, and so on and so forth. So in that case, we will have at least to measure most of the learning that has to happen. So I think there is going to be an extra work and an additional work, but that is what is required of us during this time, because it is a challenge, and we have to engage ourselves in that sort of thing. I think Miss Fatuma is back now. Miss Fatuma,
Yes,
good to see you back.
I'm sorry I was interrupted.
No, it's all right. I know it's all right. So, would you please just reflect quickly? Now, I'm going to add some questions to you. The first thing
Oh,
is, what was the impact of COVID-19 and how did you try to manage it in your school? And the other thing is, how can we compensate for the lost classes when schools finally reopen, all when students come? Okay, so would you please reflect on this very quickly, because I think we are going to have
yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Almaz.
welcome.
So as you said, I started mentioning about the impacts of the COVID. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay,
go ahead.
okay, thank you. So COVID is a new incident for us. It's a new experience. I can see that there is a lot of lagging behind, especially when it comes to the education, the real academic part. Anyhow, I can say that it has a lot positive sides as well. It has given us a lot of opportunities to see the virtual world, because we've been doing for the past 6 months with our students, especially the high schools, with online learning. So going to the next questions, to compensate, we have to do it side by side. We have to make it our habit from onwards. We have to make it like when the students are able to come, as you say, they're coming by shift. So when they come to class face to face, we'll give some things, and most of the things has to go home. And that leads us to the virtual. So all of us, the teachers, the students, and the parents, everybody has to be prepared for the virtual learning. And I'm sure we'll gain a lot from our partners in the UK, because they have started ahead and have a better experience and exposure as well. So there is a good thing as well with COVID. So I think we have to fit ourselves with whatever we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This question goes to now Dr. Meryl. How do you think STEM education could be strengthened in our schools here? What recommendation do you have?
I'm passionate about science and about STEM, and the fact that STEM, or STEAM, I like putting the art in there now as well for communication. So it's science, technology, art, science, technology, engineering, art, and maths. And I think there's a real opportunity for pupils to do simple experiments, simple hands-on investigations, and that can be at home or at school, that relate to finding solutions for global issues. Now, there's one organisation called Practical Action who've got some amazing ideas for inexpensive, accessible STEM projects that can be scaled for junior kids, for kids, very young kids, up to pupils just before they go to university, to get hands-on technical challenge to say, okay, what's the problem? How can we solve this? And how we can solve it using STEM, and then communicate our ideas using that aspect of art. So I'd highly recommend Practical Actions resources. It's where I get an awful lot of my ideas for those solving global issue problems, and coming up with ideas using STEM. But just embrace it. Sometimes when you're looking at a class full of pupils, or you've got pupils at home, you just need to lay out the instructions quite clearly, and so they know what they need to do, and then let them be creative. So as long as they know what the basic idea is, then let them come up with their own ideas. Because actually, when I've been teaching over the last decade, I've been blown away by the fact that I think of something in one way, the kids will think of it in a different way and come up with a better solution than I could. So I think it's really important that we show the children, they're the future in this world. There's a lot of global issues, from plastic pollution to climate change to biodiversity collapse. And I think for them to know that there are solutions to those problems is hugely important for their mental health, and especially in the days of things like pandemics. We are using science. Science has already come up with a vaccine that they're talking about making now. So we've got science to thank for an awful lot. So infuse your students in STEM, let them get hands-on practical, even if it's cheap and cheerful, doesn't matter. Just solving problems using science. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Almaz, may I add some point?
Yes, please.
I think one question was asked before, and it says water purification, what is the impact to the student? And you have said that students are engaged. Yes, that is one aspect of it, but the mind setup of the students in learning science is completely changing right now. My students, for example, are not willing to learn in confined classrooms by listening to the teachers only, but they demand the practical aspect of what they learn. So the other things, the mind setup of the students are really, really changing. No one can teach my students inside the classroom by giving lectures and other things, because they are always demanding the practical aspect of what you teach and what teachers are teaching. So this is also another aspect of this project that brings impact on students' learning. That's what I would like to add this point. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Yes, actually, it is not only in science, it works in all subjects. Because I'm an English teacher. I have been teaching in the high school for many years, and my students did not like it to be confined in the classroom. They love it when it is outside the classroom. For example, if you are going to teach them about buying and selling, why not take them to the market? That was what was happening. So I think it changes actually. Students love it when it is outside the classroom. In other words, when they interact with the actual lesson, when they have practical tips, when they are engaged. Especially these days, I don't think lecturing works, because why from the teacher? They can get it from the video, they can take it from the TV, they can take it from Facebook. Why? Why do they need a teacher? So I think the teacher is there to guide them, to walk them through the practical aspect of learning. So I think this partnership and what you have already shown us from your experience in the science, be it in Atwasameno's school or in Dr. Meryl's experience, and also from his grades, I think the experience here the lesson to take is we have to engage our learners practically. And I think that is what we should do with them. Now, I think for the interest of time, I'm going to give each of you a minute each to summarize the partnership and give us a key learning or something we would remember about the partnership and the impact of COVID, the opportunity that has brought. Because one of the questions said, so what did you do during COVID-19? How was your partnership running? But I think I learned that you haven't disengaged, you are communicating. So what lesson would you teach us, or what would you like us to remember when we are remembering this panel here. Okay, so I would start from, this time I'm going to start from Miss Grace. What would you like us to take away? Give us a takeaway.
I think from my experience, I've only been teaching, this is my 4th year, so I'm very early on in my career. So to be offered an opportunity like this so early on was absolutely phenomenal for me. So I grasped it with both hands as best I could, because I didn't think I might ever get an opportunity like this again. And what it taught me is that there's no right way of doing things, and it's about being flexible. And this can relate to the whole pandemic and the situation with COVID as well. You're constantly learning. You're always adapting, and I think that's the most important thing. And I've learned when I went to Ethiopia, I learned things and I brought back and I put it into my classroom. And the enthusiasm that your teachers and your staff can get from your children is something that I really worked on to try and get that kind of same response from my children. And I think it's that idea that to COVID, to learning, to the partnership, and I've gained so much from the experience. I can't thank everybody enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Miss Fatuma? Miss Fatuma?
Thank you, Dr. Almaz. Yes, thank you, Dr. Almaz. This partnership is unique because it started before the COVID and it's going through with COVID. And I'm sure there is a lot to do because the COVID has made the world a small place. As our objective was to make our students global citizens, and the COVID by itself has made us global because it's affecting the whole world. So I think our partnership has a lot to do to the future. We have to change our mindset. And whenever we think of sharing, I want to say something about education is all about sharing. And whenever we share, we always have to think of what we give and what we gain, because everybody has something to give. When it comes to education, there are lots of experiences and different practices in every place and in every school. So we are going to benefit, and we are going to benefit also the other side of our partners, and we'll make the place, I'm sure later on, I mean within let's say 5-6 years, we may even bring some things for the COVID as well, because staying with a partnership through the COVID is the most important thing for us now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Fatuma?
Can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Almaz. I think the commitment, the passions, the enthusiasms showed from all representatives of the partner schools are really amazing, and I learned a lot from them. And even if COVID gives hard time to meet physically, we can use technology, and no one stop us to share our ideas and to keep up our partnerships through technology. So we have to really learn a lot, and we have to divert some of our activities to technology, and we have to use technology and keep up our connections and sharing ideas and other things. Thank you, Doctor.
And finally, Dr. Meryl.
Okay, I'm going to be cheeky. I'm going to have two things. The one is I'd like to say a huge thanks to the British Council for making this partnership possible, and I would encourage everybody to try and take part in a British Council style connecting classroom partnership. What it's brought to myself and Miss Gracie and the rest of the team is, you know, you can't put it into words, let alone numbers. But the other thing for me, I am passionate about sustainable development. I bring the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, into all of my lessons. They formed the background for this project. Now, the Sustainable Development Goals go right the way through our lives. And SDG 3, for example, is all about health and well-being. So, you know, if we're talking about trying to control the pandemic, it's about our health. If we talk about trying to get the kids back into schools, it's about their well-being. If we're trying to talk about, you know, the need in education, there's SDG 4's quality education. And I think if we start trying to live our lives and through our schools and through our pupils and at home and in the wider world, you know, those global issues become something manageable. So I would suggest to everybody to try and embrace the Sustainable Development Goals. And one of the biggest ones for me is reduced inequalities. We know that us in the West are sitting here in our, you know, in our homes with our internet connections and things, and we know that, you know, Ethiopia has other issues going on at the moment, but really we're all global citizens, and if we all think like that, then the world would be a much better place. So I'm advocating the use of Sustainable Development Goals in the classroom, and connecting classrooms as well, because it's all fabulous. Thank you very much, Dr. Almaz. I really enjoyed my...
Thank you very much. So I'm going to share the takeaways with all of you now. I think the first one was opportunity for continuous learning. As a young professional, Miss Grace said, I am learning every day, and I'm sure my partners are also learning every day. So there is always opportunity, not only for the learners, but also for the teachers, for continuous learning. That's the takeaway from Miss Grace, what I took. And Miss Fatuma said, opportunity for, there is always boosting global citizenship. Learning doesn't happen alone. We have to learn together. So we are becoming global citizens, and we are also exercising that in our schools. So this partnership has helped us to boost global citizenship. And Ato Asamino said the commitment, the passion has helped us to change our software. When I say software, I mean attitudes of learners, attitudes of teachers, attitudes of school leaders. So the partnership has already contributed towards that. So the commitment, the engagement, and the passion in the partnership is helping to make changes in schools. And finally, about the passion in practicing or exercising the Sustainable Development Goals. We are talking about quality education, changing the lives of learners throughout the world. It's not only in the UK where there are opportunities like, for example, for remote learning and so on and so forth, but also for learners in Ethiopia. So what are the possibilities? How could we work together? I like the 4 challenges of the river project. You know, we can make things happen. So I think in the partnership, we are learning about how to make education, how to have quality education, and then how to focus on global issues. Let's focus on global issues. So I think this is the takeaway from the panel today. Thank you for being actively engaged. I really appreciate. We had a very quality time. That is how I felt. Thank you very much. And thank you, Council, for facilitating this. I would like to invite Aton. No? Okay. What about you? Okay. So thank you very much. I was going to invite, but I think that's enough. It's already time. So bye-bye then.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.